Hello, I'm John Conrad. Today we're going to discuss how you can invest your savings. Now, the first place, if you have maybe $5,000 to $10,000 saved, is I'd make sure that you put your money into a 401k to get the full employer match. It's just free money and there's no way to give that option up. The other is if you have a certain income that would qualify you for the saver's credit, make sure that you open a Roth IRA or an IRA if you don't have a 401k to ensure that you get the full credit amount that you're entitled. But after that, where should you invest your money? And I would suggest that you put your money into a first-time home purchase. Now, I know a lot of people think that a home is not an investment. And I think in a lot of ways that's very true because of the way people purchase homes. What they usually do is they look for the biggest home that they can buy, usually one that's been renovated and has all the amenities and looks great. The problem is these homes usually are not valued based on the rent. They're usually in nicer areas which don't have multiple rental units. So what that means is when a bank goes through to value the home, they look at the most comparable home sales. So what happens is you get in a home that other people find desirable, which is great, but then the housing market starts to build and build upon itself and the house prices get inflated. So what that means is you buy a home that really has no relationship to the rental values. That can be great if you decide to live in the home for a long period, because really what you're wanting to do is have a nice place to live. But for your first home, don't look for a nice place to live. You're probably not going to have this as your forever home. What you want is to have a good investment. So start changing your mentality and look for a good investment as your first home purchase. Yes, you're going to live in this home for 3 to 5 years at most, but then after that, don't just think you're going to sell it. What you're really going to do is hold on to this as an investment property with rental potential and income. So let's get started as far as what you can look for. The first thing I would do is look for a home that's not perfect. So look for homes that might need to have, some new appliances, might need to have repainting, need new carpet, or you can replace the carpet with wood flooring. These are all small projects that you can learn to do and will increase the value of your property greatly. The second piece is, even if you're looking for a single family home, make sure that it has some kind of rental potential. And I think the best way to do this is if it has separate access to a basement or maybe separate access to a specific room in the house that can be cut off from the rest of the home. And this way you can rent it out through Airbnb on a nightly rate. It's a great way to bring in extra income. Now, an even better alternative is to buy what's called a 2-flat or a 3 or 4 unit home. So the bigger advantage is to buy a property that has up to 4 units. Now you can get the same type of loan to buy a single family house as you can to buy up to a 4-unit property. So I think it's really advantageous to buy up to a 4-unit property. And the reason that it's going to benefit here is that you get the same grant money. So we discussed in an earlier episode how there's 3 to 7% available in grant money, where it's basically just giving you a huge amount of money in order to purchase a property. Frankly, I think this is just an advantage that's not discussed enough, and it's a huge way to get free money that's tax-free. The other advantage is leverage. And let me explain what leverage is really quickly. A bank on these loans is going to require you to put 3.5% down. That means that they'll give you 96.5% of the purchase price. And the huge advantage of leverage is any movement in the value of the house is going to go to you. The bank is going to get the same amount of payment whether the house goes up or down. You're just going to have to pay them. But since you're the one taking the risk, any movements in the house that go up, you get to take it. So essentially what you get to do is use the bank's money to take a bet that the housing market's going to go up. So all of your profits are going to be maximized and multiplied using the bank's money. So let me give you a quick example. Typically with stocks, you can't take any kind of loan to match your money. And if you can, the interest rates are usually prohibitively high. So let's just assume you take $10,000 from and invest it into the stock market. And let's say that goes up 10%, which would be an incredible, great return, and you'd be very happy. So now your $10,000 has gone to $11,000. You made $1,000 that year. That's great. Now let's say you took half that amount and invested it in a home. Let's just say $5,000. That same $5,000, and we'll ignore for now the free money from the grant, but let's say you took that $5,000 and got a bank loan, we'll just say 95%, to buy a $100,000 house. What's going to happen here is if that house goes up, let's just say 2 or 3%, doesn't have to go up a lot. Now that house is going to be valued at $102,000 or $103,000. So look what's happened. Your $5,000 has gotten a return of $2,000 or $3,000. That's up to a 60% return on your money. So all you've had to do is put in $5,000, and you've gotten significantly more than you would have with a stock return. Now obviously it works in the other way too. If the housing market goes down, you've lost a lot more money than you would have from the stock market. But over the long term, and that's how long you're going to own this home, housing prices generally have gone up. Same with the stock market. That's the risk that you're going to take. So as long as the housing market goes up, and that's a good assumption over the long term, you're going to get a much better return on your money. And that's why this having leverage is such a huge advantage to being able to purchase a first-time home as an investment. Now, even other investment properties don't offer this, because usually if it's not a home you're going to live in, a bank's going to require maybe 30-35% of a down payment. So you have to put a lot more money into the property than you do on these first-time home purchases. And that's because a bank views an investment property as very risky. The views of a 4-unit or less is less risky, so they'll be willing to put in their money. The other piece here is after the tax cuts, it's really not much of an advantage to own a home that's a single-family home anymore. And the reason is most of the advantages of being able to take a deduction for your mortgage interest or your state and local taxes has disappeared. And so now basically you have to pay that money and you don't get a tax benefit. But if you have an investment property, the portion of the property that's for the investment purposes, you get to deduct. There's also another concept called depreciation, which means you can look at the portions that are for the rental property, and that house, the government will allow you another deduction called depreciation. It's basically assuming that the house is deteriorating, you'll have to fix it up. So they're going to give you that money through a tax deduction today, even though you don't have to spend any money here. You're going to get the income payments from your tenants. You're also going to get a number of great deductions related to the property that's the rental portion. So now you'll get to deduct the mortgage interest. You'll get to deduct the rental expenses, such as repairs. You're going to deduct the depreciation. These are all things that if you just had a single family home, you'd be paying on your own, but now you get to spread those costs. In all, your payments are either going to go towards paying off your mortgage, or you're actually going to end up with a little cash flow too. This is an advantage of real estate that simply no other investments offer. So next time we'll discuss what you should look for in an investment property, some of the calculations you can do, and some of the other considerations you should make before making a purchase. Please put any questions or comments below. I'll see you next time.